Hello in this fine hour. Now I will continue my previous thread and start with next asset class, and that will be energy markets. Now, since most of you don't watch mercantile exchange quotes for futures and options contracts, I'll be showing you traded markets that are available on TradingView, and that will be oil products, which is gasoline and heating oil, and natural gas. And now I'll give you a little layout about these markets, so there is some context before, and then I will go to charts themselves and show each market in separate videos. And with that said, let's start to roll. So we have crude oil, heating oil, this is Brent contract but it's identical as a crude oil, natural gas, and some variations or slightly differently made futures contracts for natural gas and crude oil, which is effectively the same markets as these, so you don't have to bother. And gasoline. So, alright, let's give you context. Here is crude oil, this is heating oil, this is gasoline, and this is natural gas. Every one of those markets are in weekly charts. So excuse me, let's look, excuse me about this nonsense ad, but first things first, if we are talking about oil and oil products, they will be highly correlated, obviously, because oil is made by refining, oil is not made from nothing, it's put from the ground and refined into oil products. So oil consumption obviously will be directly tied to oil product consumption, because you cannot go with one without another, you know. Oil to be refined as a crude, oil will be refined as a heating oil, some sort of diesel or gasoline, or some sort of products such as rubber and plastic, but most of the time it will be oil products which is used for energy, so they will be correlated almost identically. As you could see, I will show you now. This is oil chart, this is heating oil chart, and this is gasoline chart. Now, of course, there are some nuances because oil is traded across the globe as an almost identical product, and differences between oil are very negligible. For instance, if you look at spread between New York oil, Arab oil, or Brent, it will be in very few differences. Only exception to that is Urals oil in 2022. Because of the war in Ukraine, markets started to heavily discount Russian oil due to the sanctions, but that's exception than a norm. Otherwise, we have to look at differences in qualities, but they will be almost identical. So there is no point to analyze different crude oil products, different crude oil types, such as Brent and crude. And think about oil products are a bit different here, because oil products are traded only to certain geographical region. For instance, this heating oil is an American heating oil. Heating oil for Asia or Europe would be slightly different, because they are sold only in that region, because I don't know how much of the quantities, but they are little small, which are transferred across the oceans. Most of the time markets will buy crude oil, refine it in a specific location, and sell specific to that location, because that's what they do. And secondly, there are some regulatory nuances why they actually cannot sell gasoline at the same type across the globe. I don't know why that is, but that's the fact. So this heating oil will be more subject to regional differences in Northern America, such as capacity to refine and store it, and particular weather, because heating oil is very prone to extreme cold. But that's the thing, you know, and I will show you those nuances when I will be giving you detailed video, but now you have to understand simple context here. Next, the same about gasoline. This is American gasoline, so this is refined in America and sold to American markets. European gasoline will have their own nuances, because there are different refinery capacities, different supply and demands in regions and whatnot. So there will be slight differences, but not fundamental, because oil is oil at the end of the day, but regional nuances will be there. And with that said, let's go to natural gas, and here I will give a little context and say that natural gas is American natural gas. Unfortunately, I cannot show you European natural gas because it will be very interesting to compare European and American natural gas, because they are produced in different regions, stored in different regions, and sold to different regions. And there is a lot to tell about European natural gas in this day and age, which is autumn 2022, but unfortunately I cannot do it for this video, but I will be sure that I will be able to tell it on some other time. But nevertheless, this is American heating oil, and heating oil, similarly as the gasoline, have tendency to spike when there is some cold waves of cold or frostbite, however you call it, because then demand for heating oil and natural gas spikes, thus price spikes, because you cannot actually forecast frostbites. With that said, let me show you one example what I'm talking about correlation in energy markets. This is crude oil. You see patterns here with spike in 2008, then bottom in crisis in 2009, and then slow bull market with huge bear market, and then prices stabilized, hit bottom again in COVID times, and then eventually rise to 120, late 20s to 130 when war in Ukraine hit. And similar pattern is with heating oil. It climbed in 2008, fell as a rock in early 2009, slowly stabilized at subsequent years, then fell as the oil did, stabilized again, fell when crisis hit, and then spiked in 2022. Here's the same pattern. 2008, 2009, subsequent years. There are some nuances, I told you. This is due to refining capacities and storages in America, and then fell back again in 2014-15, stabilized, everything was locked down in early 2020, then it fell and rose subsequently up until spike in early 22 because of the war. So, like I said, not a lot of differences, but there are something. So, with that said, let's go to next market, and that is natural gas. There I wouldn't be telling you much of the price, because I will be giving you price lessons in a separate video, but I will just tell you that it's very good market for trading and very neglected. But here's the thing, unfortunately I wouldn't be telling you differences about gasoline, heating oil and oil in separate videos, because they're effectively the same. There wouldn't be much to tell me about, because the supply and demand forces are identical, unless you are trading some future spreads or options which are made for short-term trading, but that's another story. Other than that, you'll be fine with just crude oil and natural gas. So if you want to see detailed videos how natural gas and oil is traded across decades and what are profit opportunities there, wait for my next videos, and bye.